So, as we all see, it's about time that Adventure Time has met its time. It sucked. And yeah, it is really sad. Like, this is like probably the biggest onslaught of like emotion I felt from like anything in the most recent history, as sad as that may seem, also. But it's true. Like, I mean, the show's ending is one thing, but like what really got me was watching Comic Con and how it was all nice and happy. Then Rebecca Sugar showed up and started singing, and like seeing John DiMaggio just choking up really got to me. Like, it was the first time it caused like a single tear to shed down my face, and then my friends started saying that like their air was getting set on fire and like the woods around them were getting set on fire and stuff. So I think me crying caused the world to end for a second there. Sorry about that. Anyway, what I want to talk about and just personally share and get out there is like my history with the show itself and what I was doing at the times and how the show connects to it. So I'm gonna go way back to 2010, and we were seeing promos of the show back then. I remember the first one I saw, which I'm sure many first saw, was them dancing at the Candy Kingdom, and they specifically show that friggin' Punch Bowl dancing. We all know who he is now. Then after that, they had the obnoxious live-action promos that made the show seem really stupid and annoying. Granted, it was a little bit season 1, but anyway, it was like shitty Steven Universe promos before Steven Universe even happened. Very misleading for the shows. But yeah, I remember seeing Finn punching the heart monster and the red vapor waves or whatever it was coming off it, and I thought that was just blood gushing out at first. I was like, wow, kids show. Anyway, then the show started. Well, they had the sneak peek first of the Businessmen episode. Then the show started with the Candy People zombies. And I remember thinking, yeah, that show's alright, and they were so proud of the 2 million viewers, and the one kid was like, lumpin' righteous, or whatever. And yeah, I remember the show just being like an instant hit, like very shortly after it started. I remember walking into a Hot Topic, I haven't done that in a while, and seeing a t-shirt of like Finn, and it's just like a grid of like his different facial expressions. Like one of them was him beat up, another one like happy. But yeah, I was just casually watching the show, having it on at the time, catching new episodes, and the first memory that comes to mind for me when I go back and think of like that era is back then me and my brother, we started this stupid card game. Probably like two of you know what I'm talking about because I did the birthday video on it. But I just remember us sitting at a little table and making those and having the show on the side, and I feel like that show's like atmosphere and stuff was like in somewhat played of an inspiration for some of the designs in there. I mean, a little subconscious thing. But yeah, looking back, I just love the atmosphere of season 1, just how like happy and laid back it can be. Like, I mean, it's stupid at some times, boring even, but it's just really fun. I'm sure nostalgia plays a part of it, but yeah, it is quite charming. I especially love the demon cat in the dungeons. But anyways, after like a little bit, like not too long in, I started to fall off the show. Like the little 90s phase was kicking in at the time. And I was like starting to get like, oh, this sucks, and that stupid kind of crap. I mean, I had some good criticisms, even though I think today, like I've mentioned before, like season 1, it could get boring or just flat out annoying and making seem like it tried too hard sometimes to be wacky or cool, man, or inappropriate. But yeah, most of it is kind of dumb. And then 2011 happened, and this is at the point where I just like hated the show and everything new, and I was at a really unhealthy nostalgic goggle wearing phase, and I was lonely and repressed everybody at school. I didn't really have any friends. Like, I did talk to some people at school, but not really, and my brother was kind of at college at this time, so I was just by myself, and I was at the full-on 90s phase, and just doing that and living in the past and stuff. And I mean, it was fun, but at the same time, it was pretty unhealthy looking back, and I was like kind of a little bitch, and I'm glad I could grow out of that. I mean, it is fun to live in the past sometimes, but if you're going to do that, then take it in small doses and do it at the same time while you're fine with living in today. But yeah, I kept on hearing about the show just through osmosis, even though I didn't really want to. And I remember hearing about Meow and stuff, and I've been wondering about Meow because she was designed by like a little girl, like a fan of the show, and now she's a reoccurring character who's all grown up and is appearing in the finale and has some Rule 34. But I just wonder how she thinks about all of that. Like, if there's ever been like a small interview with her, what she's doing now or whatever. Anyway, 2012 rolled along. I basically thought the same about the show. And I remember Cartoon Network doing their 20th anniversary and doing Cartoon Planet and stuff, so that was fun for my 90s boner. Then 2013 happened. I wasn't thinking much of the show, like I was basically ignoring it completely. But then a little game came out. You may have heard this, and this is going to go off for a bit. Fire Emblem Awakening. Yeah, I'm just going to start talking about that. Anyway, I played that game, and I absolutely loved it, and I actually gained a lot from that game, as silly as this all sounds. Like, it taught me to be more open-minded and, like, social to people. So that game actually did really change me. It's probably my favorite game ever right now. And yeah, it just had me open up and give chances to a lot of things and made me realize that new stuff can be really, really, really good. So I started to pay attention to more modern games, TV, all the likes, and I started watching more Cartoon Network Cartoon Network shows again, and opening up to them and giving them a chance. And I remember watching regular show, and I was like, yeah, I guess this is okay. And Adventure Time I tried watching too, I was like, yeah, I guess this stuff is still alright. And then late 2013 came on, and this was at the time where it seemed like the dark age of CN. Any like sign of it, any leftovers from it, they were just bam, gone. I'd say when Steven Universe premiered, that's when it was all gone. And I didn't watch it at first, but I remember hearing people say that Steven Universe was good, and a little bit later on Rick and Morty, but I still didn't see any of them. Then 2014 happened, and I saw both of those shows, and I liked both of them. Steven Universe I didn't see much of, but Rick and Morty I caught episodes, and that was probably like the first like modern show that I really loved. Like, I instantly loved it. The first episode I saw was the season 1 finale, and how I feel about Rick and Morty now is an entirely different story, but that's for another time. But yeah, I started hearing stories about Adventure Time, and I heard that apparently while I was absent, the show was getting deeper, but I still didn't see much of it. Like, I saw newer episodes and I liked it, and I was watching like a good amount of Gumball at the time, so that was something. And then 2015 rolled in, and I really felt like watching the show again, because like the previous year I started getting 2010 nostalgia, and that carried on to the next year, especially for like season 1 Adventure Time atmosphere. And I was hearing about the show's like lore and crap, and I watched I Remember You, and that's like what really got me back into the show. So I was like a full-on fan of it again, and watching it and enjoying it again. In 2015 is when I really started to enjoy like TV again. Like, Cartoon Network I loved back in 2015, especially the summer, because they had like all of their good modern shows on. We Bare Bears just premiered, and it was like right before they got like too like out of it with like rerunning shows, especially the spin-offs. So for me, that was like the summer of 2010, and it would help kick out some sadness off me. So yeah, the show was, at that point, it was sadly dying in the ratings. I jumped in a bit late, but I liked it anyways, and that's when Stakes came on, and it was all good. I feel really bad looking back, not getting to the show earlier. Like, I feel like I could have been happier if I did watch it back in like 2011 and stuff. But at the same time, I don't know if I would have learned as much and be as level-headed as I am now if I hadn't, like, mistakenly had nostalgia goggles stapled to my face. But yeah, my attitude towards the show carried on basically the same to 2016. I mean, it was still dying in terms of ratings and network treatment, and the network was kind of going downhill again, but it got better eventually, like this year. But first 2017, there isn't much to say. I just got into the subreddit back then, and the show was still dying. But yeah, now we're in 2018, and the show's finale is rolling in, and it seems like that sparked up a kickback in its popularity and people talking about it and reminiscing about it. And yeah, it is sad to think about, but I mean, it will be okay, I'm sure. And if I could go back to the beginning of this decade and do everything over again, I probably would, just because dying of old age sucks. But it'd also be fun to see things again. Maybe if I have my memory, do mistakes I never did, but retain my knowledge, like a new game plus. And unfortunately, like back in 2011, that was like when I was at the height of like depression and sad and really fucked up and shitty. And I feel like I'm getting back to that, unfortunately. But this time I kind of like know a bit better on it, and this time I'm not completely alone. But yeah, it is a bit unfortunate, but I feel like that will eventually be okay soon also. I mean, like, just looking back at when the show started to now, like, 2010, it feels so long ago, but then not long ago at all. Like, I've been joking about time a lot recently, saying it's felt like nothing to me and that things have just been happening and going by real quickly, but when I stop and think about when it started to right now where it's over, like, just how much I've done and have been through and, like, stuff I experienced and how I'm just, like, used to death now, and Adventure Time really was like the sign, like the start of this decade, and it ending is like also now the sign that like this decade is soon coming to its close. But yeah, it's quite the emotional roller coaster, and the one thing to remember, like what Tom Kenny said, is that it's not gone. It's never gonna truly be gone. Like, I mean, nothing is truly ever gone. Like, as long as you remember it, then it's not gone at all. You can go back and experience it at any time you wish, and you can keep it alive by talking about it. Just keeping it in your heart, and I'm sure it'll spread to other people, and it'll be like you'll never left. I mean, after all, time is just an illusion that helps things make sense, right?